Before anything, let's start with an approach that will help us own the scale and make it more expressive. And that is to approach the scale horizontally. As you may be familiar by now, you can achieve a vocal-like sound by approaching the scale horizontally. This will also help you internalize the interval relationship. Let me demonstrate C minor pentatonic, which have the notes C, E flat, F, G, and B flat. Play this on the B string. Root, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3, root. One more time. Before you move on, see for yourself if you can map out the C minor pentatonic scale on all the strings horizontally, but take it one at a time while singing the degrees. Once you've finished going over horizontally, we're going to zoom out and map the fretboard vertically using the cage system. Now, before we do that, let's clear up one important concept that's going to clear up this whole thing. Cage system is built from major chord shapes. So when we want to visualize the minor pentatonic scale using caged, we don't look for the minor chord shapes. We look for its relative majors caged shapes. And that's because that's what the pattern was built from. The idea to understand here is that every minor key has a relative major and every relative major key has a relative minor. What does relative mean? It means two of the relatives share the same notes. The only difference is which note your ears feel as home, the tonal center. Here, let me demonstrate. Here I played C, E flat, B flat power chords, which all belong in C minor and followed by a C minor pentatonic scale. Notice you can hear the sound of rock that feels edgy and minorish. Now check this out. Here I played E flat major and F minor, which also belong in the key of C minor and followed by C minor pentatonic scale. But here notice it sounds a bit sweeter than my first example. So the takeaway here is the approach to the scale is what determines if it sounds major versus minor. With the same set of notes, you can make your playing feel different. In order to understand how this relates, here's a good frame of thought process on the guitar. First, with a given note, determine its initial key center. If the initial key center is minor, you can find its relative major by going up 3 frets from your minor root. Now, if the initial key center is major, you can find its relative minor by going down 3 frets from your major root. Let me give you a couple examples. Let's say I have the root note given as G and its initial key center was G minor. Okay, so here is the root note G. Now, in order to find its relative major, I'm going to move up 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. That becomes B flat, and B flat major is the relative major key. Now, if I go back to the note G, and if my initial key center here is major, I can find its relative minor by going down 3 frets. 1, 2, and I'm left with open E string. So E minor is the relative minor key of a G major. Another example, let's say the root was D. If the initial key center was a D minor, I could find its relative major by going up 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. That's the note F. F major is the relative major of a D minor. And if I had a D major to start with, I go down 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. That's the note B. B minor is the relative minor of a D major. Now let's apply this to C minor. First, the note C, I'll choose this on the 6th string, 8th fret. Since I'm starting with a C minor, I'm going to find this relative major by going up 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. That's the note E flat. E flat major is the relative major to a C minor. So now the cage system works from this point forward. We can map out the C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, and D shape, all in the key of E flat major. And those become our visual framework for the vertical approach. Let's walk through all the 5 positions of a C minor pentatonic scale, or you could think E flat major pentatonic scale. I'll go ahead and start with the C shape of an E flat. Now the A shape of E flat. Okay, now here's the G shape of E flat. Now here is the E shape of an E flat. And now here is the D shape of E flat. So now that you understand how to use caged for minor pentatonic scale, try to pick a few different keys and see if you could find its relative major and map out the scale accordingly. Before you move on to the next lesson, make sure you could visualize and play C minor pentatonic both horizontally and vertically.